Well, friends, welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel. I am Professor DIY, and behind the camera is Elpida, and my assistant, as always, is Miss DIY. So today we are going to do the whole thing in the shop, right?
Yep.
So stick around with us. We're going to have a fun episode for you. One of the most useful things you can have if you have a table saw is a sled. We left our sled back in Kansas, and even if we didn't, we have a new saw now, so the old sled wouldn't work, right? That's one of the downsides. Sleds are very specific to your saw. So today we're going to show you how to use scraps, what you have around your saw, and make a very nice and accurate sled. And don't, friends, we're not going to use the 5-cut method. And this is what we built for you and for us today. This is our brand new sled, and I'm looking forward to start using it, hopefully in a little warmer weekend. If you stick around, we're going to show you everything we did, right, every step of the way, so you can follow it and do it yourself. So we're starting with a scrap piece of plywood, and the first thing we're going to do is check it for square. Being totally square is not critical for the application, but it's a nice detail. And this is pretty nice. And we're going to check it for the other side. Once again, I like it to be square, but it has nothing to do with the functionality of the jig. It will work. All right? So we're satisfied that this is a square piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we can even do that. Bring the square here. Do you see any light underneath? No, underneath the big one, not that. Important that this edge is actually square.
No.
Okay, that means that it is flush with the surface, right?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. And what I was doing there, put that back, I didn't explain. If this is square, which is what I was doing, right? We know this is a true surface. So it's plumb and level and everything, right? So if this is square, then we shouldn't be able to see any light underneath it, if it is flat, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was doing. Okay. So based on our old experience, and in order to reduce weight, we're going to cut a piece of this board. So if you remember, our last sled was kind of heavy, right?
It was.
And there is no need to be that heavy. So we're going to remove that piece of wood, and that will probably give us a little bit of a easier time when it comes to how heavy it is. So the next thing we have to do is cut this piece off.
Okay.
So we're going to cut this, and we're going to use our Tack Life little saw. The jigsaw will also work nice here. It is not necessary to be a perfect cut, and we're going to switch to a circular saw because we could not find the handle for the tack saw, and the cut did not feel safe to us. So again, use what we have. No need to have every tool we show you in this episode. Okay, we are changing tools not because the Tack Life cannot do it, but because we couldn't find its handle, and it was just not a safe cut the way we were trying to do it, right?
So this one has a handle.
Yeah. This is not a critical dimension. As long as you are parallel to the line you want to cut and you are close enough, that is enough. This is not a finished product, and it is not critical you are right on the line. In fact, this cut did not have to be repeated. It was right on where we needed it. Even though this is not finished furniture, because we don't want the potential of getting a sliver or something on our fingers, we are going to actually do a little bit of sanding. Plus, it makes Mrs. DIY happy.
Makes me very happy not to get slivers in my hands, yes.
No, it makes you happy to sand.
But also, no slivers.
So we're going to do that for a few minutes. Again, it's not furniture, we don't need to go crazy with our sanding, but we need to be nice and clean, right?
Yep.
So this is the general idea. We're going to be seated somewhere here, right?
Yep.
And usually I use pieces of wood to put as runners. And right now I don't have hardwood. All I have in the shop is softwoods, but I happen to have some runners that they are metal. We're going to use that today, you know.
Okay.
So these runners are universal and they have adjustments, right? They have two adjustments per runner. And you just turn the adjustment screw. Right now it's too much because we cannot move it, right?
Right.
The idea is that that prevents the runner from going right left. We want it to easily right, but we don't want it to be going right left, right?
So I don't see any right to left movement.
Okay. Good. Then we are set on that. And we already did the other one. You should be able, just by using your fingers, to move them, right? It should be a very easy movement. Excellent. So the next step is to temporarily attach the rails to the board, right? And we're going to use a hot glue to achieve this purpose. We're going to put dabs of hot glue to both, and then we're going to lay the, what you call this, the table on. So we place our sled base where we want it to be, and now we're checking that it is square, right? So now the vertical should be touching both the plywood and the saw, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And it is square, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This step will help us later down the road to make sure that our fence is actually at 90 degrees and will give us very good parallel cuts. All right, and we have made sure that we are correct here. As you can see, we have no gaps. So the next step will be to make sure that we attach the rails correctly. So we're going to do that next. It is not critical, but I'm OCD, so I wanted the two rails to be in the same position. So we're using a calibrated square, and we're going to set it up in our saw exactly the same spot, right? Again, this is not a critical step and can be skipped, especially since you will not see the rails that are in the underside, and it makes no real difference. It's just something that I like to do. In fact, they can be even offset. Again, this is not critical, and we even consider offsetting the rails, right?
This is just your preference.
Right.
Okay.
All right. So now we're going to put some hot glue, which is hot.
Hot glue is hot, people. Don't learn the hard way. I now just put a little bit of weight, and if we did it half right, Halfway right, not all the way right?
not halfway right, not all the way
We're
right,
only hoping for half.
Okay.
we should be able to lift this and the rails at the same time. The temperature was too cold and the hot glue dried very, very quickly, so one of the rails did not attach. So we had to do it one more time.
One of them. One of them did.
Another one.
It's still in there.
Thank you. Why? It dried too fast? Yeah, it dried too fast. So we're going to repeat it. We have one. We're going to
Okay.
repeat it with the other, okay?
Okay. Okay, take two.
The low temperature in our shop made the glue dry very quickly, and as you can see, this was the part that we did first, so it did not wait for us to put it down, and it did dry much quicker than we anticipated. So let's see if take two actually is the final take.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I'm hoping.
All right, let's see. I think we have actually,
You glued it to your table?
I think a little bit, yes.
It's always this
Release
edge.
that.
Release the edge. Yeah.
Release the kraken.
All right. Now they're both attached.
And now we're going to screw them down. The hot glue was only for this little device.
To hold them in place so
Yeah.
that you can then flip it over and put the screws in to hold them permanently in place.
Semi-permanently. That's the advantage of this. If we need to replace it, we can take them and use them again, you know.
Right. But the screws are more permanent than hot glue. Right?
Yes. More better.
More better.
Take care here that the screws are not too long and they're not going to go through the whole piece and sew up on top. You want the screws to be just short enough to grab but not pass through. In order to minimize the risk of the screws moving these, the rails, we're going to make pilot holes in all our initial holes. Once again, this was probably overkill because the hot glue is very strong and would not allow the piece to move, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, so I went to the extra step and made pilot holes And that way we ensure that it did not move. Our tolerances are very, very short here.
Wait.
It's always better to have more than less. Take every care here that you do not move whatever material you use as your runners. In our case, our tolerances are so tight that it was important we didn't move them at all, and the combination of the hot glue and being very careful and using pilot holes ensured that was not an issue in our specific application. You cannot have two first.
Are you sure?
Positive. Almost not my gun, not too big.
Now both rails are installed and we're going to test it.
Yes, and if it doesn't work, we have to do it all over again. All right. Excellent.
Okay.
So let's turn it over. So it was too tight. So we looked at our rails and there was some glue, hot glue that had spilled over here. And these are so good, the tolerances are so small that that little glue actually made it tighter, right? Mm-hmm. And of course this is now, the first time we use it is going to get a little better with use, but it is now where we're satisfied.
So do we want to show them how it's moving right now?
Okay. And we do need to put a little wax in it too.
Okay. So it does move. Again, there's going to be more surface to grip in the form of a handle type thing, and your wax is also going to make it move better
Right.
as well. But for right now, this is a pretty good movement, but without the play that you're looking for.
Right, yeah. Excellent. So I want to put a stop block, which is this device here. And we need to cut our fence to that length, right? Because we don't want that to be lower, to that high. Because then it will only work for pieces that are this tall, right? Does it make sense what I'm saying or not?
Not to me, but maybe to you.
This will sit on top of here. And it will come down. And it
Okay.
will move. But if it is that high, then we have to have a very high piece of thing to stop it. We want it to be just above the surface there.
Okay.
But if it is longer, it will not come all the way down.
Okay.
Does it make sense now?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense now or no?
So you want it to be the same as this?
Yes.
Okay.
Want to see if the,
I was
this
gonna say, see if a 2x4 is closer, or even a 2x3.
Yeah, I'll probably do a 2x4 because it will go a little down too. Okay.
So the 2x4 that you've selected here, we're gonna cut it to match the width of the sled.
Correct.
We're lining it up on this end, and then just gonna make a mark, and we'll use our chop saw to cut it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Again, these are not critical dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
The OCD in me likes things to look nice. Okay. So the next step is to bring our blade up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm checking here, we're in the back and we're flush, right? Miss DIY, you concur?
Not quite. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
All right. it over here. Okay, remember you have to remove your riving knife, or in our case, move your riving knife. Otherwise, the blade doesn't come through. But
Because the riving knife comes up over the blade and actually blocks part of it, and that will actually interfere with this cut.
so now, however, it should be coming all the way up. Hold on. So the riving knife can go through this. That's why I have it. So we put our fence and we put 2 screws, and the only reason we put only 2 screws is because now we're going to turn it over and check it to make sure it is correct. And if it is not, we're going to remove 1 screw, we'll correct it, and then reinsert it in a different spot.
Okay,
So this will not be used again.
So let's talk about what we have here. We have flipped the sled over on its back, essentially. And we decided to, instead of going with the 2x4, we're going with a 2x6 for
Right.
the extra width there. So the blade doesn't compromise that too much.
Right.
And we put another, also 2x6 on this side to keep this even and flat. Then we lined this up with the edge of the sled. And again, we did pilot holes here and here, and we put in screws to hold that. Now we did sink those in because if you leave those even at all at the surface, it's going to catch in your,
It will scratch your table.
it'll scratch your table and also, you know,
Cats will do both.
cause problems when you're trying to make a cut. So we have recessed those. So now we're going to flip this over and see how it is on the table.
Right. And it is reasonably light, so that is good.
Reasonably light in terms of a sled that's a large 2x2 piece of oak.
Yeah, and you see it now?
See, now it's sliding a lot better, and that's what you want.
So I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Now we need to raise the blade.
And again, how are you gonna know that the blade is square to this piece? That's
well,
what you
we
were
have to raise
concerned.
it first.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing. I'm raising the blade,
Okay, so we're raising the blade.
and then we're going to use our square.
Okay.
Make sure that you're not on a tooth because that will throw your square. And I think we're perfect.
Yeah. So here
Look
we
at the
are.
blade. We're perfect on the blade.
Perfect on the blade, and again, he adjusted it so that this is not on a tooth because that does come out a little bit. And then it is square.
Let me put it on a tooth so you can see that it will give us an error. Maybe I can put it on a tooth.
Yeah.
And look at the error here.
Yep.
People say it's not a big deal, but you can see it's a big deal, right?
It does make a difference when you're making cuts, and probably visually to the eye it doesn't make a difference, but in the actual cuts it does, right?
Yes, and I would like to make a cut to check it as well, to check the cut, right? That it is actually perfect.
Okay.
So,
Let us find something.
you want to put the vacuum on?
No, I mean, it doesn't. I can, but then I think we'll.
It will do it regardless, but hopefully with this on, it will be less because the plate is not there. Now the proof is in the pudding, so let's see. And I would say I'm very happy with that,
Really nice square cut.
right? It's perfect. So we're going to do a couple of more things other than not making a mess.
We
in
have
the
to
saw.
find that, which is down in the I don't know where now.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we know that this, the back part of the, what is it called?
That's called the fence.
The fence is in the right spot, and we've confirmed that it's square. We're going to put some additional screws in to hold it in the correct place.
And I would like to have 3 on each side of the blade. So we're going to be 2 more on each side, right?
Mm-hmm. And again, we're sinking them down below the surface so that they don't scratch the table or catch or cause a problem in the cut.
Take care here. The screws must be below the surface, otherwise they're going to be catching on your surface, and in addition to scratching the tables on top, they will also cause difficulties moving the thread freely. So this is very important that you do correctly. I know I'm one of the few people that like to make the slit, the blade slit, before I attach the back, right? And the reason for that is so we're making sure that there is no screw where the blade exits.
Okay.
And also, if they are not very tight, you might have a very slight difference in the level of the two pieces, something that you don't want. And by two pieces, I mean the right and left of the side of the blade. So taking your time here and doing it correctly will pay dividends in how easy your sled will be to use and how accurate it will be. So I always like to protect, even though we know this, the blade can come out here, often in the middle of the project you might just not remember, right? And we have this tall enough so your finger is highly unlikely to be there. But to make it impossible, we're going to put a piece of wood there to remind us that this is the area for the blade. And it will be almost impossible for the blade to go all the way out here, right? Because the blade has to be more than half the way through for this to happen. And there will be never a reason to do that. As you see, to cut through the 2x4, it went out only this.
Okay.
Does it make sense? Because you have all this
Yep.
distance
Yep.
and now this distance, right? So we're going to attach it. We're going to make 4 pilot holes, and then we're going to attach it.
And the reason we're making the pilot holes is because this is a small, we're putting the screws on the outer corners, and we don't want it to split when we're going to attach it.
Right.
Okay. So here's the protection block that we're installing. We've got 2 of the screws already done. We did pilot holes for all 4 of these screws, and we're going to install these last 2.
Okay, and the only important things here is that your screws, again, our blade will come out somewhere there. Actually, it shouldn't come out at all.
Right.
That's the whole idea, right?
But you can see over the top here that where the blade is, there will be no screws.
And also, this is both a visual and a tactile reminder that the blade comes there, right? So you couldn't by accident have your fingers there.
Well, you should not have
Right.
your fingers there, because as you're holding the sled, you're either going to be here, and even if you reach down here, you're going to go, oh, that's where the blade is.
Right, that's the whole idea behind the safety doohickey.
Right.
So what we're going to do down the road, we have cut this piece to be the correct dimension, and we're going to put it in front of here, and we're going to create a stop block since we have it, right? So I will have to router a keyhole
Okay.
that goes all the way across. So in essence, they will become a T-track instead of a keyhole, right?
Okay.
And that will allow us to have a stop anywhere we want it in this whole area, right?
Okay.
And we're not doing it today because we don't feel like it. I don't know. Is that a good reason?
Good as any.
But in any case, this is ready to use. In fact, we already used it once, right? And again, I was concerned it was a little tight, but it is perfect,
Yep.
right? What do you
Yep.
think? Very, very pleased with it.
And you have yet to wax it, so that'll help with the
Right.
movement as well.
I have some more canola wax. Canola, how it's called.
It's over there.
Okay. So we'll need to wax it to protect the surface, and it just makes it smooth, even smoother. But this is pretty smooth, right?
Yeah.
What point should we make to our viewers? This is not critical other than looks that it is parallel to anything or horizontal to anything. This is just providing a little rigidity to the jig. That's all, right?
Okay.
I've missed using a sled. I wanted to make one for a lot of for some time now, and this is nice and light actually. So we made a couple of marks. Idea to make it easier when we first attach it to know where the slots are, right?
To line up the tracks.
Right, and again, you do not have to use tracks like we use. You can use wooden tracks, and in all my sleds up to now, that's what I've done. It's just that I happen not to have any hardwood, and I did happen to have those, right? Those are fairly inexpensive, like $10 for 2. I don't remember the exact price because I had them for a long time. But the sled now is totally functional. And if you remember, in our old sled, we made stops using hot glue. Remember?
Yep, we sure did.
So you don't need to have anything fancy. This is perfectly functional the way it is now, right? We think with our block back here, it's safe enough, and it is very rigid, it is very nice, and we already made a cut, and it came out perfect as we showed you.
It's over there.
Okay, so we are very, very happy with that. Now, some people will criticize, you didn't use the 5-cut method. No, this is absolutely perfect, right? We don't need to use the 5-cut method. And we did do things a little different than other people because through experience, this is not our first sled, I've built several. Through experience, I know that this works. And for woodworking, again, we're not going to do any high-level accuracy machining here. For what we do, this is more than adequate. It's actually perfect. So I like that it is light, much lighter than our old one. And our lines actually work pretty well. I put it right on. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, I move the table, but it doesn't move. The sled doesn't move on the table.
Right.
So it has just the perfect match. Or not match, what I want to say, the perfect tolerance, right to left. And it's very easy. In fact, you can use a single finger to push it. And I don't think you need any more proof that this is...
Except not pushing it all the way off the table.
Well, you shouldn't push it all the way off the table.
Probably not.
Well, ladies, any points you want to make?
What about the riving knife?
Well, this specific saw, the riving knife is not removable. If you can remove it, usually when you have a sled, you want to remove the riving knife, right? So in our case, it will cause us to lose about 1/4 of an inch in height because it doesn't completely hide. In its lowest point is about 1/4 of an inch up from the table, right?
Okay.
So I might have to read the manual. Oh no, because I don't know.
You have to read instructions?
I know. Because, I mean, it works fine the way it is. If your saw has a riving knife that is removable, it's a good idea to remove it. Definitely a good idea to remove it before you try to make that cut.
Yeah.
Because that was a mistake I made, and the ladies here were trying to tell me, but I couldn't understand what they were telling me.
Until I used the right words.
Right. When she said riving knife, I said, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But they say one cut through, and it's like, the blade can cut through the plywood. I don't, you know. So, communication, words, as Ray says. And if you don't know who I'm talking about Rainman Ray, the mechanic in Florida. It's one of our favorite channels. It's an awesome channel, so I stole his words, right? That's his saying, words, or gravity. You know.
Gravity clicks. He's got a lot of cool things.
All right, our cost was $0 because we use scraps. If you want to buy that, really, you can buy Remnants 2x4s for a couple of dollars in any of the big box stores, right?
Yep.
And a piece of plywood. This was a 2x4, right?
2x2.
2x2. So let's say $7.50. So either $10 if you were to buy all the material brand new, right? And definitely everyone will have a scrap to make the safety. You can see our safety there.
And if you are going to use the type of rails that we did, that's a purchase, and you said it was about $10 for...
Yes, for two.
Yeah, for two.
And but you don't have to. I mean, everything we did will be the same without the rails except the adjustment. I mean, I did like how fine adjustment they had, right? But other than that, that's perfect. So friends, this is our episode for today. We hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, press the other button twice. Share, like, subscribe. Let us know if you like this episode and if you want to see something similar in the future. From Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida,